All right, in this part of our 04 build, we've got to focus on getting this sprocket off the rear tire so we can start getting the whole back end of the bike, getting the swing arm, getting the motor in, start bringing this bike back together. Let's see how far we get. So the last guy who changed the sprocket on this bike, looks like he stripped out a couple of the bolts. So I imagine this is going to be a bit of a struggle, but first thing we're going to do is get rid of these bolts, clean up the hub a little bit, and get the new one installed. There we go. And you're not trying to turn the bolt, you're trying to break the nut free on the bottom side. You can see we'll get our tool on the top side, but it's this nut that we're more concerned about. So, there we go, breaks free. If you try and tighten the bolt itself, you're gonna strip it. And that's what guys end up doing. So what we're gonna do now is just break them all free, and then we'll use the impact to speed up the process. So here's the sprocket that came off. You can see that they're starting to hook because of the wear. So this sprocket, you probably could have rode it a little more, but it's rough. And we don't like to do a bike without replacing them. So that's the one that came off. And you can see the difference here if I put the new one up against it, how much more material, and they're equal inside. So it's pretty wore out. Guys think they don't need to replace their sprockets, but that's what the sprocket looks like new. And there behind it is a worn out sprocket. So now it's just a matter of cleaning off any built up. There's a difference in metal happening, you know. You can tell it needs to just be cleaned up, and then it'll be good to go. So again, we'll just take a Scotch-Brite pad, clean up the mounting surface. If there's any big burrs or anything, obviously you'd need to take care of that, maybe just with a file. This one's good, there's no burrs. Guys, we got the sprocket set on there, and we've got a brand new hardware kit for the bike. So I just wanted to note that these don't have anti-seize. I know we put anti-seize on a lot of bike parts so that they come off easy next time, but these have a thread locker, a Loctite, that's the generic brand, right? But the thread locker, and they're using a red on here. So you want to make sure that your sprocket bolts don't come loose while you're riding. So you want to put thread locker back on your bolts if you're not changing the hardware. And we're going to torque these down to spec. Your bike might be different. This bike is 24 foot-pounds. And we're going to do it in a star pattern. Now we'll reinstall the chain guide on the swing arm before we put it on the bike, because it is next to impossible to try and get at some of these bolts. We're going to install the linkage on the bike with the roller bolt. Get our mountain bolts put in. We don't want to tighten these up yet, just snug them. Now it's a matter of trying to line our swing arm up. Drop it in. Make sure you have a little bit of grease on your swing arm bolt. Just trying to line this so it slides in. There we go. Pull out this bolt. Get our reed cage back in the bike. You guys know me, I like to put a little bit of grease just by the bolt holes. We don't want to get it down in the cylinder, just to help hold the gasket. So we're just dabbing very little bit, barely, you can see it. Then we have the reed cage with the gasket. Just gonna slide it on. Perfect. Then the reed cage airflow guide thing. Now another little bit of grease because there's another gasket. the other gasket on. We're kind of working in a cross pattern again. We're not tightening them down yet, just snugging them up. Want to make sure that we don't tear the gaskets. We'll just snug them down. Drop our rear shock down. Install the chain guide. We're going to install some new chain guides, but what we're going to do is put a very little bit of anti-seize on the end of the threads. This stuff gets everywhere, and that little amount will work its way up in there. If you had a hard time getting yours out, I would chase the threads with a tap. We're just going to thread it in, letting it work its way up in there all the way. Perfect. And we'll just back it out a bit. It's easier to back it out now than it is to do it when the axle's in. And we'll do the same to the other side. So before we go any further, we're going to torque down all of our linkage bolts and rear end bolts to 38 foot-pounds is what the book says. We'll install our head stay so we can torque down the rest of the motor. While the motor's still loose, we want to make sure all the mounts are in, because you can see our lineup is not perfect here. So we're going to have to lift the motor just a hair. And if we torque those other bolts down, we'd never be able to. So don't go torquing everything down until you've got all the major stuff in place. Now we'll tighten up the head stay. We'll go ahead and torque down our motor mount bolts. They're supposed to be at 40. And then we're going to crank the swing arm pivot bolt to 65. Install the rear master cylinder. Install the coil. Install the CDI back onto the bike. So the electrical tape that was on here to seal up this end, and then it plugs in. This is from the coil, the magneto up to the CDI can read it. It was in really bad shape, so we pulled it off. We're just gonna retape it. Anytime you see stuff like that, guys, and you're doing a harness, and the tape looks horrible, take the time, pull it off, and do it right so it looks good when your bike's finished. Let's get this axle in. I gotta be careful, our bike's not strapped down. That's as far as we're gonna be able to get today. I forgot that I had ordered a few parts from the local Honda dealer for the rear brake. One of the little clips when I bought this bike was missing. So we've got it coming in. There's no sense putting the whole rear end together without having parts just to take it back apart. So anyway, guys, we got a lot done. The bike's really coming along. You know, it's actually starting to look like a bike rather than just a pile of parts. But thanks a lot for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if there's anything you guys want to see or what you liked, or if you like the series. And I guess we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.